let's get into this. I Know What You Did Last Summer spoiler review. So, I Know What You Did Last Summer came out over the weekend. It literally followed the same plot as the 1997 film, which is like a group of friends. First of all, it was four in the original. Now, this one, it was five, where it was like a bunch of them go and they want to go see fireworks at um first of all, what I didn't understand this, they went to Dead Man's Curve, which I believe was the same situation that the original cast went to in the original movie, right? Except I remember when Julie and all of them, they went down to the beach to see the fireworks and have like their one last hurrah before they all went off to college and Helen went off to be an actress in New York and all this other stuff. The part that bothered me with this movie was the fact that why were y'all on the highway, parked on the side, just to watch fireworks? That didn't make no damn sense, especially if it was Dead Man's Curve. So you got trucks and cars and all kinds of things swerving, you know, to get where they need to go. Of course, you bound to cause an accident because then Teddy, played by Tyree Withers, who that's a cute ass boy. But and I'm looking forward to seeing him in that movie. Him, I think is what it's called. That's what's it called out. It's Jordan Peele. It's not a Jordan Peele director, but I think Jordan Peele is producing it. Where he's playing like a football player, and then I think Marlon is playing a mentor, and he's like, "What would you do to sacrifice, I guess, to get to the top, or whatever the case is?" So I'm looking forward to seeing that movie. That looks really interesting. It's like one of those. It looks like one of those weird Jordan Peele movies. So I'm gonna definitely check that out when it comes out. I think it comes out in like September or October of this year. But I'll check that out. So I actually liked the Teddy character, which you can see is the one that's in between um Ava. That's the girl, the Asian, was it Chase Sui, whatever her name is. I can't remember her name, but she's in between him. He's in between her and Freddie Prinze Jr. So seeing this movie, whatever, I was getting my nostalgic life. I was loving, getting the fact that we got to see Jennifer Love Hewitt and we got to see Freddie Prinze Jr. To be honest, Freddie Prinze Jr. had much more scenes in the movie than Jennifer Love Hewitt. So she was sitting over here saying, "Oh, I'm more than a cameo." No, sis, you kind of were a cameo. Like you really wasn't in a lot of this movie. We saw the scene where the first time we get to see her, she's a professor at a college, and Ava, who was the girl that I just pointed out to y'all in the middle, she was basically like goes to visit Julie at the college because of what was happening. Her friends are being taunted. There were people that characters in the film had met that were getting killed off, which was like this girl who um I think it was Ava, right? That was having a little same sex situation. She met her on the plane. And there was a podcast girl who she met on the plane that was coming to town, I guess, because of the whole anniversary of this thing. And she was looking into the whole 1997 massacre or whatever the case was. For some godforsaken reason, she was there for that. But I just felt like they just threw her in for whatever reason. And so, what the whole story is, because I feel like I'm jumping the gun. So, let's go back a little bit. So, the story behind the whole thing is Madeline Klein's character, Danica, is engaged to Teddy to be married. So Ava, who I believe was supposed to be our final girl, but to be honest, I couldn't tell who the damn final girl was. But in the beginning, I did feel like Ava was basically our final girl. So Ava comes back to town. Um, she's going to Danica's wedding or what is it, her bridal shower, whatever the case you want to call it. Her and Teddy are engaged to get married. So then it's like they all want to kind of hang out and they go down to the Dead Man's Curve to watch fireworks, which I'm just sitting there like, y'all could have just did the beach thing, but whatever. I guess there needs to be a reason to cause this accident. So then they go and invite another girl named Stevie, who had, I guess, kind of drifted apart from the group because everybody else comes from money. They're all like well off from their parents, whatever. But Stevie at one point was a rich girl whose father pissed away all her money and his money. So he kind of left in obscurity. Freddie Prinze Jr.'s Ray Bronson is actually kind of taken her under his wing and has been looking over, out for her. So she works at his bar We find that out later on in the movie that, that's who her boss is, which I didn't think putting two and two together. But if you haven't really been watching a lot of the trailers and all of the stuff, you wouldn't know that, okay. But then there is a hint of like during one scene, you do see Ray's bar in the background. So I'm like, duh. But I was like, I'm just sitting there paying attention to watch the movie. So then they all kind of come in. One of the things that bothered me about the script, it was too much telling and not showing, because it was like, isn't that Stevie over there? Oh, we're no longer friends and this and that because of da 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 da. And then the girl that Stevie's with, we found out they go to church together, whatever, because Stevie was on hard times and she was drinking and doing drugs and all this other stuff, and she had found like this group to be a part of that was keeping her on the straight and narrow. The girl says the same thing to her, and it's like, why are you telling us all this? Like, we got it. Just tell it in a sentence, keep it moving. So then it didn't take much long for Stevie to kind of go along with the other girls. So the whole group. So they all go off down to the beach. Not down to the beach, down to the Dead Man's Curve, which, like I'm telling you before, I didn't understand why they was even on the side and the whole thing, like on the side of the road. So then Teddy's outside being an idiot, playing with the cards, like playing Russian roulette and that sort of thing, playing chicken, I guess you would call it. So then they pull him out of the way. Milo pulls him out of the way. That's the dude between Jennifer Love Hewitt and Madeline Klein. So, and then there was, another thing that was kind of making me wonder, the dynamic between Teddy and Milo. I'm like, are these two hunching? Because it was giving very Gen Z. I know, like with Gen Z, a lot of y'all try to act like y'all don't be hunching, but to me, it just gives like a lot of y'all be hunching each other and just be okay with it. Because it was all about feelings and things in this movie. So I wouldn't have minded a Teddy Milo moment. We also about I love each other and calling, and then he calls him daddy and all. So I was like, okay, like a lot of the dialogue was very Gen Z. The writing wasn't that good either. I will give them that. So the accident happens. A year later, we see Danica's. I'm like, what's it taking them so long to get married? So then a year later, Danica's getting married. Just not to Teddy. She got a new man. Some drunk who we see in the trailer ends up the one being killed. He's the one that gets the harpoon to the chest and gets cut up while she's in the tub, I guess trying to exfoliate and get her mind right, and he's busy being murdered downstairs. I just thought like the way they propped him up or whatever was a pretty interesting kill. Now, speaking of the kills, I do feel like the kills was giving very the kills were generic to me. I think a lot of people would say, "Oh yeah, the kills were gnarly," but I'm like, no. Compared to many horror movies I've seen, like if I want to talk about Inviolate Nature, if I want to talk about, or maybe that's asking for too much. I'm not expecting Terrifier 3. I'm not expecting that kind of gore because Final Destination's never really given us that. Final Destination. I Know What You Did Last Summer has never given us that, but if you're gonna give me like really cool kills, I really wish they would have pushed for more interesting kills versus than that. So that kind of just disappointed me with some of those. The only kill that I actually like, and I told you we going into spoiler territory because you can see it in there, was the scene between Teddy and then the killer, and then his father actually coming out and said, and you want to know something I noticed? That scene reminded me a lot of the first Scream with Casey Becker, because he goes, and he sees his mother in the window and she's on the phone, probably cheating on the father, because they did allude to, Milo says in one scene that, oh, this is the room where I caught Teddy's mother making out with her tennis instructor. So she's probably out there carrying or whatever on that phone while the father downstairs drinking, the son busy they trying to kill the killer trying to kill the son. And then, so to me, I felt like out of all the characters, Teddy was the most interesting character out of all of them. He was like the lovable douchebag. So he made him likable, the character, even though I've been like, you're a dick, I want you to die. But no, he made him actually likable. So I like this character. And then, so I think he had a pretty good scene with the killer. But then it was a part that I was just like, the editing kind of made me go, because how are you having this good moment where you fighting, I want to call him Ghostface so bad, the fisherman, and then all of a sudden we cut to him crawling up the steps, fighting for his life. He sees his mother. He goes, which gave very much Casey Becker when she got stabbed up in the first Scream, where she tried to call for her parents about to go in the house. And then She takes off the mask and sees who it is. Now, here's the thing. So that scene with him was pretty cool. And then as he's dying in his father's arms, the slicker is coming up behind his father, who was trying to cover up everything in the whole thing because his father is like wealthy. They've gentrified Southport. So I like that whole idea. And it makes sense. That's probably why they shot it in Australia, because some people were saying, oh, I kind of wish they would have shot the movie in North Carolina. But I'm like, does North Carolina kind of have this whole look of like rich people that moved down there? I think they wanted to give this whole overall idea of aesthetically, it needs to have like this. A lot of rich people are living down here that has been gentrified to the point that people can't afford to live down here. So I think that's why they did that. And then the thing with his father. So how they propped up Teddy and his father in the death situation, I thought that was a pretty cool scene. But all the other scenes was kind of generic. The way that Milo was just strangled to death, boring. The way that they killed off the girl, the podcaster, where she at one point reveals, when she takes off the mask as she's gutted, she's like, it's you. That's how I knew at the point who the killer was. Because who else did she know outside of somebody that she had to be familiar with? Milo is who she met in the car when she got a ride into Southport after making out with Ava in the damn bathroom of the airport. And then it had to be one of the legacy characters being the killer. So let's get to that because, and another thing, Madeline Klein, I love you, girl, but you irritated me in this damn movie. I do not understand why Danica survived. She was annoying. I felt like the whole baby voice, oh, I got a boo-boo. It's like, okay, how old are we? Like, that kind of irritated me with the way she was delivering her lines and stuff in the film. So, overall, does it sound like I like this movie? Because it's like I just had a lot of problems with it. But here's the thing. I was thoroughly entertained. I think for the nostalgia purposes, I like the film. There was another thing that bothered me too. Julie James giving advice to Ava, which was like, oh, you got to get the killer before they get you. And it's like, but wait a minute. First of all, I know you did last summer. It was an accident of what happened. So it wasn't like you intentionally did it. So that rule doesn't necessarily apply for this franchise because it wasn't just like somebody all of a sudden trying to stalk you and kill you. So it doesn't. So that whole rule thing just didn't apply. I just felt like you were trying to Jennifer Caden Robinson, who co-wrote the script, and also, you know who the other co-writer was? She was the one that was on the screen, the news reporter, who was telling us who the killer was and everything during the post-credit scene, which I'm going to get into. There's reasons why I'm being vague with some of the spoiler stuff before we get to the actual spoiler stuff. So here's the thing I also wanted from this movie. One, I wanted more backstory on Ray and Julie. We find out in the film that Ray and Julie, once upon a time, were married, and they hate each other. I wanted to know the why. What got them to the point of why Julie and Ray can't stand the sight of each other? Because the pretty cool scene that I did like was when her house alarms and stuff was going on. Somebody's at the front porch, somebody's in the back porch, that sort of thing. I like that scene. I thought I was like, okay, we got some suspense going. It was kind of giving me Jenna Ortega when she was being stalked by Ghostface in Scream 5 before, he kept unlocking the door and stabbing her. So that was kind of giving me that kind of vibe. But so I like that. And then she comes to the door. She's like, "Oh, it's you. I thought somebody was coming to kill me, but it's you, and it's even but it's you, and it's even worse, or whatever the case, whatever the hell she said." So I like that dynamic between them, but I wanted more between Ray and Julie. I know it's like you're trying to focus on rebooting the franchise for this next generation of people to come in and watch this film, but for people like myself who grew up on I Know What You Did Last Summer, you want to lure the legacy fans back, but also give us a reason to want to watch this franchise. So it's like, in so many ways, I understand you were trying to merge the two, but I don't feel like they did a good job of executing it. I also feel like I said, they should have given us more backstory on Julie and Ray. Julie should have been in this movie a lot more. And I also wanted, even in the third act, I wanted Julie to have her Sidney Prescott moment. Like every time you watch a Scream movie, Sidney always has a sequence where she's getting chased, she's fighting the killer, She gets her one-liners in. It's always, and that's why we love her as a final girl. I know everybody be trying to come out here and make her this icon, and we're gonna get into this story about her with the LGBTQ fans and all this other stuff, and that in a separate topic when we have that one coming up. But to me, I always felt like Julie James was never that girl that really earned it as the scream queen that y'all trying to make her out to be. In so many ways, I love Jennifer Love Hewitt. She did what she did with these movies, but her character has never lived up to what a Sidney Prescott has lived up to, or a Laurie Strode. She's never been that girl. And I hate that y'all continue to try to make fetch happen. Whereas, like, we always want her to get to this, y'all always try to make her out to be this iconic character that the writers have never been able to catapult her to that situation. So it's been hard for me to kind of like buy into that. But nevertheless, and so now let's get into the third act. I understood the motivation as to why they decided to make Ray the killer in this film. It didn't feel earned to me. Whereas I heard that Freddie Prinze Jr. basically had wanted to be the killer. Now, here's the thing. If you watch the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, Barry, played by Ryan Phillippe, had always alluded to the fact that he would be the killer. Oh, believing that he would be our killer, that sort of thing. It would have worked if the writing was a lot stronger in this film, because I didn't understand the whole thing of being on the boat. You had Danica and Ava get on the boat, and Stevie. They all got on the boat to get away from whoever the killer was, which Ray was doing some of the kills. Especially like during the sequence where I think he's the one that killed the podcaster. Here's another thing too. I've totally forgot about. There was a sequence earlier in the film where the killer was trying to kill Stevie. How's she the killer? Oh yeah, that's another one. So apparently there was two killers. So they tried to pull from Scream. So Stevie was the killer, which I don't understand how you make a female the killer when y'all try to bash men at the same time in the film. Where they made like some little shady comment about men and kill and getting your emotions and all this other stuff. Yeah, they said that, but I'm like, but wait a minute. Your friend who has a vagina, last time I checked, was one of the killers. So it wasn't just a man doing the killing. It was a girl and a man. And the reason why is because she had similarities to Ray's character, who Ray was the poor kid in the original I Know What You Did Last Summer. All his other friends came from money. He had to be out here actually being a fisherman and trying to make ends meet and taking care of himself. He was pissed off about the whole gentrification of Southport. Also, people trying to just throw the event of what happened in this town under the rug, and that frustrated him as well, which caused his snapping on how instead of him dealing with the trauma like anybody else, go to therapy, whatever the case is, it triggered something in him to go on this killing spree. And then I guess with Stevie coming to him, they joined forces and was just like, okay, we got to kill your friends, whatever the case is. That does sound like a great idea. I'm glad they took that big swing. I just wish that, as you know, if you're going to take that big of a swing, that the writing would have been strong enough to justify that big swing that you took. So that was the issue that I had with this movie, that I just really wish that the writing would have hit those beats a lot better. But I'm not mad at the fact that they made Ray the killer, because I'm like, yeah, it totally makes sense. Like if you watch the original film and you watch I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, there was little breadcrumbs that was sprinkled throughout in that. There was another thing I forgot to bring up. So this was the spoiler that pissed me off from Variety before I even saw the movie. They revealed in their review that Sarah Michelle Gellar has a cameo in the film where she's playing a dead, she's basically in Danica's dream, where she's playing basically Helen, of course, because you see her head, normally if I would have saw the movie, I would have thought that, okay, this is a scene where it's going to be Madeline Klein, Danica, kind of seeing herself talking bad to herself or something or another. I thought she turned around and be her. That would have worked if I didn't know that part was coming up. So I wasn't even surprised when I saw it. I was like, okay, that's Sarah Michelle Gellar right there, because I knew that scene was coming. Because idiots on social media, in a regular review, it wasn't like I was on Twitter reading spoilers. It's an actual reporter from a legitimate trade spoiling something that, oh yeah, look, it's three people. Like it's not only we already knew about Freddie Prinze Jr. We already knew about Jennifer Love Hewitt, but Sarah Michelle Gellar, that would have been a nice surprise, but then I'm not surprised that she was in the film because A, she's married to Freddie Prinze Jr., B, she was in Do Revenge, which was directed by Jennifer Caden Robinson. So you knew she was going to find a way to slither her up in the film in some sort of way. So I think around that time when it was out in Australia and she was visiting her husband and brought the kids and everything for Thanksgiving when they shot the film, I think that was around the time that she was like, okay, I got a cameo for you. I'm about to put you in the film. So it was cute seeing, it was great seeing Helen Shivers back from the grave, even though it was a dream sequence. And I like how the dream sequence played out. But I was trying to figure out, like, how did that make sense for Danica to be having that dream? And I guess it's because they just threw it in there because they were both, I mean, they were both like pageant girls and that sort of thing. So they wanted to kind of like make that the reason. So yeah, let's get back into the spoiler alert part. So yeah, so apparently he, as I said, Ray was a killer, which was weird to me because I was like, okay, so then why were y'all all on the boat? Why didn't Ray go and kill? Well, after Danica got sliced and diced with the hook and thrown into the water, why didn't they go and try to kill Ava? Because and then they could have just walked off into the sunset. But I guess he needed sort of like an alibi, even though he said, "Oh, I'm looking out for you" and all this other stuff. He needed to have her be thrown under the bus as the killer, so that way he'd get away with it. So you ain't like that girl all that damn much. So I promise your father I will protect you. That just doesn't make sense to go along with that. If you promise to protect her and everything, then why would you go along with actually trying to kill her? Unless there was some bullets in the gun that happened to be blanks. And then at the end, when Julie, I guess, gets a message or whatever from Ava, and then they start looking into it, it was like, okay, because of some picture between Freddie Prinze Jr., well, Ray and Stevie, that put two and two together for made her think that, okay, he's the killer, that he was also the co-killer. Like, that doesn't compute. When in fact she was an employee, so that doesn't work for me. That doesn't sell the story. And so all of a sudden she gets in the car and she drives down there and then she confronts Ray and they all fight, and after Ava gets stabbed in the back trying to fight off, the killer, then Ray's about to kill her before she has to drop her iconic line. What are you waiting for? Well, she could have just delivered it in some sort of way, but they just had to throw that in there because it's iconic with the film. But I think a lot of times they did that as like they parodied that line or whatever. So what are you waiting for was sort of a happy accident that became this big thing that blew up. But anyway, so that should have been the moment where we get an iconic fight sequence between Julie and Ray. We ain't get that. Instead, he gets stabbed with the spear gun that he actually killed Danica's fiance with, and that's how he goes down and dies. The end. And then Danica and Ava are at the hospital because Danica apparently survived getting gutted with a hook. Don't know how that happened. But then, funnily enough, Madeline Klein recently did an interview and said they shot that sequence of her surviving 2 weeks before the movie came out because they went to test screenings. Fans were upset that she was, killed off. When I'm like, no, I didn't see her as a final girl. I was expecting her to die in the movie, and then y'all didn't kill her off. But because what? Madeline Klein's like this up and coming big name in Hollywood. That was the reason why y'all kept her alive. It just didn't make sense to me. Like, it made sense to make Ava the final girl and have all her friends get killed off, whatever the case is. So there was that. And so for nostalgic purposes, I had fun with the movie. I wanted more scenes with Jennifer Love Hewitt. I wanted more scenes with Ray. I really feel like while there needed to be a balance. I felt y'all spent a little too much time on these kids, given quite a few of them not a lot to do. But for the most part, I did want more Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like, I felt like the way y'all thought she's a badass in this, I didn't get that from this. Like, this is what she was saying in interviews, and you hyping her up like she gonna be this badass. I'm like, oh, we finally gonna get her like in the same vein as like a Sydney Prescott or a Jamie Lee. Or a Laurie Strode. I didn't get none of that. We just got somebody who was just delivering a bunch of "what did you do last summer?" or "what do you wait?" Like, just delivering the cheesy one-liners from old films. Like, that's what she was there for. And also, there were people complaining about Jennifer Love Hewitt's body. talking about how she's fat and all this other stuff. And it's just like, fuck off. First of all, she just had a third child. So what did you want her to be? Like a stick figure? Like a lot of these Hollywood girls, the minute they deliver a baby, they breastfeed for like a week, and then all of a sudden they go down under the knife, and then all of a sudden they're a stick figure. So they're doing the Ozempic, they're doing the liposuction, they're doing all this other foolishness. At least she has a natural woman's body. And Jennifer Love Hewitt still looks good. So go argue with your mammy. I just didn't understand why that whole situation. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty much the movie. I probably left some stuff out, but if I did, whatever. I know there's probably some people in the comments that's going to add on to the stuff, and we'll get to that after I wrap this topic. So now let's get to the post-credit scene. So of course, even Helen Keller would know that the post-credit scene would be, of course, with Brandy's Carla Wilson popping up. We all knew it was coming, especially on the press junket and on the red carpets when they were promoting the film, that it was going to be, oh yes, stay for the post. Well, it's not even a post-credit; it's a mid-credit, because the credits start, then the scene pops up, and then the credits finish. So it's mid-credit. It's not a post-credit. Post-credit is literally the credits is done. There's a scene that pops up when the film is finished showing all the damn people that worked in the damn movie. So it was a mid-credit scene. As I said it before, the reporter that was on the TV screen as Carla is along with her husband. Well, I think, isn't that the guy that do like the deodorant commercial or whatever? He looked like him to me. Anyway, so she's watching the TV, and then she's like, somebody over trying to kill that girl. When she had the funnier lines in the film. And I heard some people say like the post-credit scene was the best part of the movie. So then she's watching the movie. As I said, she's watching the news. As I stated, the fun fact, as I said earlier, the reporter on the screen is actually the person who co-wrote the script. She a better reporter than a writer. But anyway, no shade, just saying. So after that, she gets a knock at the door. It's Julie wearing a leather jacket and a baseball cap, saying that she got a letter. And I think it was like a couple of weeks had passed, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months, or maybe it was a month. Some time has passed. Let's just say that, since the events that happened with Ray and all the other stuff. So she comes in, which is weird to me, because if the news report said that this event, like if it's revealing who the killer was or whatever, how did months pass when that's fresh news and she's watching it? So I didn't pay attention when they was coming up with all. It's like, nah, you should have been like after whatever. It should just been like it doesn't make sense to say time has passed when the news story just came out. She's reacting to it. I just thought about that. I was like, wait a minute. So y'all wasn't even paying attention to the stuff that you wrote and you created in this whole situation. So a lot of the damn ain't no damn sense. Because time couldn't have passed when Carla had just found out who the killer was from watching the news. But anyway, so Julie comes in, and then she's like, I got a note. It says on the back of it, it has Carla's face scratched out, and then on the back it says, it's not over. It's not over between you and me. Whoever it was, I don't know who it is that want to try to kill Carla and scratch on her face and said it's not over, unless y'all trying to say Ray ain't dead. And the way they was making it seem was like, neither is Stevie. Because said, did you hear Stevie survive? How did y'all find that out? And where is Stevie if she's not dead? But I guess if we get a sequel, we'll find out. But quiet as it's kept, these new generation student kids aren't that interesting enough to even warrant a sequel. But the sequel I do want is a buddy horror film between Carla and Julie. So this is the irritating part. I don't feel like with Julie coming in with the baseball cap and the leather jacket, that all of that badassery that she gets in that post-credit scene was even earned, because she barely did anything in the original movie. So you basically set all this up for a sequel. And this is what I hate about films. Don't set up something for a potential sequel that may or may not happen. Give this person a reason to be like this survivor or this big hero and take a big swing. Have all of that set up in your film, so that way when we get the sequel, it's earned. Like, you weren't giving characters the wherewithal to earn a lot of what was happening in this film. It was just happening. You have to work up to those moments. You have to work up to those beats. And I don't feel like a lot of the characters worked up to that. Just like I don't feel like Jennifer Love Hewitt's Julie James earned to be this badass chick in the post-credit scene. I'm like, where was this girl throughout the movie? She wasn't there. I ain't see her. Where was I? And I feel like there was a lot of scenes that was cut out that would have made more sense to where we were. Just like I said, that harsh cut that we got, like something was cut out where I was saying, like, between Teddy fighting the killer, and then all of a sudden he winds up outside and he's crawling. I'm like, what happened in between then? Like, all of a sudden he outside. Like, what happened? Why you cut up the whole thing and he ends up outside crawling up a flight of steps trying to get into his house, his parents' house, or whatever the case is. So the best thing these characters could have did was like take Teddy's advice and be like, why don't we all just get on my yacht and just sail away to the Bahamas until this all blows over? That was the best idea. But if you did that, there wouldn't be much of a movie now, would it? So, and then at the end, when we get to Carla saying, okay, who we gotta fuck up? When she said, I cackled. So I was like, yeah, of course, Carla gets the best one-liners. I would love to see a movie between Julie and Carla reuniting, and then, that. But if we get to that, I need somebody to step in that really knows how to write a good, damn suspenseful script. You know who I think should come on board for the next, if this movie gets made? Somebody put an APB out, or maybe I'll put out in the universe. Get Christopher Landon to write and direct the next I Know What You Did Last Summer. Because I don't feel like y'all will go at him. Like, remember, y'all went in on him with Scream and all that other stuff? With that being said, I feel like with Scream, I get why y'all was doing that because of the whole Spyglass drama, all that other stuff. But I do feel like somebody who knows how to write really good characters, knows how to build suspense, can come up with some really cool kills, and write some one-liners that the homosexuals would live for is definitely a OG homosexual himself, Christopher Landon. So I would love to see Christopher Landon come on board and do it. I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel to this requel. I don't want Jennifer Caden Robinson coming back. She told me she a big fan. Girl, where? Because you was not giving me what I needed as a legacy sequel fan. Congratulations that you took a big swing with the whole Ray situation. It made sense because of the whole trauma. And yeah, some people snap and do kill. So I like that idea. The execution just didn't work for me. And some of the childish dialogue that you was writing up in there too. So I know this was a long review, but when you talk about this type of movie, you got to break a lot of stuff down. So I'll say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story regarding I Know What You Did Last Summer? Did you see the movie? What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did you have fun with it? Like, I had a good time with it. It was fun. I wanted more aggressiveness with the kills or whatever. But I just felt like the script just felt short for me. And I just don't feel like certain things that happen in the film, the characters earned those arcs throughout the film. So it's definitely a film. I mean, if you're a hardcore I Know What You Did Last Summer fan, it was something that needed to be seen in the movies. But for the most part, if you really want to know, just wait for it to come out in a couple of weeks on digital and just rent it at home for like a good $20. That's what you should do. Just wait till it come out on not even streaming, because streaming might be a little longer, but just rent it at home. Just do that. And you'll save a whole lot of money doing that. So let me know what you guys think of this spoiler review in the comments down below.